Dave Adams, Legislative Affairs Director at the Virginia Shooting Sports Association, joins us on the program. Dave, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Cam. Thanks for having me on.
It is my pleasure. Saw a press conference today between the big dogs of the Virginia Democrats, not the blue dogs, because there's not a blue dog among them, Dave, but Tim Kaine, Terry McAuliffe, and Mark Herring holding a joint press conference on gun control. Governor McAuliffe announcing some executive actions. What do these executive actions amount to, Dave?
Well, the one that's the most important is where he has banned open carry in most executive office buildings. That affects all state buildings except for the state capitol and for the General Assembly building. The legislature controls what happens in those. He did say that it does not affect concealed carry at the time because there's a longer regulatory process that has to go in to effect, but he expects the Department of General Services to have some regulations related to concealed carry in state buildings within the next 30 days. He also, I found this one pretty interesting, he apparently feels he has to put out an executive order to prosecute gun crimes, which I thought that was something that the state already did.
Theoretically, I guess. Does this indicate that the state has not been doing what it should be doing?
That would leave one to ask that question, wouldn't it?
It would lead one to ask that question. I'll tell you, Dave, I got another question, too, because I noticed that the governor's statement did not mention the fact that violent crime in the state of Virginia at historic low levels right now.
That's correct, and I don't recall seeing anywhere in the news where a crime had been committed in a state building by someone legally carrying a firearm, rather open or concealed, for that matter.
I don't recall that either. You know, I mentioned this earlier in the show. I was doing some research on this. There were, Dave, more than twice as many heroin overdoses, drug overdoses, including heroin overdoses, in the state of Virginia in 2014 as there were homicides. There were more than twice as many fatal car accidents in the state of Virginia in 2014 than there were homicides. The number in particular of drug overdoses and heroin overdoses is soaring in the state, while again, our gun-related crime has been going down since 2006, and I'm puzzled. Other than the political expediency of this, why the governor is making gun ownership in Virginia one of his priorities.
I find it interesting. It is an election year, and this morning I read an article talking about how Democrats are focusing on 4 states' Senate races here in Virginia. Last week, the Washington Post reported that Gabby Giffords' gun ban group is dropping in over $500,000 on those 4 races. And then this morning, we get the press conference by the governor.
I'll tell you something else that's interesting, too, Dave. Last time you and I talked, I think that number was 6 races that the governor was focusing on. So does that mean that they're polling? And again, I would say if you live in Virginia, assume that your race, that your Senate seat, your delegate seat is going to be competitive and act like it. Volunteer, get out there. We've only got a few weeks left, but does that mean that the conventional wisdom may have changed on a couple of these races that Democrats thought were winnable?
Well, yeah, the article I was referring to mentioned 4 specifically, which is here in the Richmond area, the Glenn Sturtevant-Dan Gecker race, which is an open seat. The race where Hal Parrish is running up in the 29th District, which is Northern Virginia, Prince William County area. That's an open seat that's being vacated by Chuck Hogan. The seat down in the Virginia Beach area, which is Frank Wagner, and a Democrat whose last name is McCollum, who's run into some problems lately, trying to beef up his military record when apparently it wasn't true what he was putting out there in the public. And one other race, but the Dick Black race up in the 13th District up in Northern Virginia. Those are the 4 that seem to be on top of everybody's list right now, and that's where Gabby Giffords is specifically putting her money. So, yeah, I think those, like you said, we should all focus on all of our races, but those are the ones that I think are going to turn the state Senate around, and that's apparently what he's trying to do. It's a concerted strategy to push gun control, something that the Democrats haven't been doing until just recently because they felt it was a loser. They now think it's a winner, and so gun owners need to get out there and let him know that it's not a winner and that we're going to push back on everything he's done today.
Absolutely. Now, listen, Dave, I know that, folks can go to the NRA ILA Grassroots Division. They can find where their local election volunteer coordinator is located, and they can get involved that way. What's the best way for folks to volunteer through the Virginia Shooting Sports Association?
I would, because we are the state association for the NRA, we're supporting all of the NRA-endorsed candidates. I would recommend that they go to the NRA PVS website. They can also go to our website, myvssa.org. We have information there that will link back to the NRA PVF website. Between now and Election Day, they can find out everything they need to know on how to get involved.
All right. Hey, Dave, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. I appreciate this, and we'll look forward to talking to you again very soon.
All right, Cam. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you. Dave Adams, Legislative Affairs Director at the Virginia Shooting Sports Association.